All right, ready to jump into some serious Hollywood insider stuff?
Always.
You guys sent in some notes and a transcript
Yeah.
from like a high-level meeting of entertainment execs.
Oh, wow.
And let me tell you, it is juicy. We're talking senior people from Sony, Paramount, Warner Bros.,
Yeah.
even some tech companies and agencies,
Huh.
all gathered by Steve Kazanjian and Lisa Dattilo of the next group.
Okay.
Sounds like they're all trying to figure out this crazy industry shakeup, and we're going to break down exactly what they're thinking, but more importantly, what you can learn from it all.
I love it. So what jumped out at you? What was interesting?
Well, right off the bat, there's this mix of like real anxiety, but then also this like buzz about opportunity. You know?
I mean, it is a crazy time.
Totally. Like you've got people like Dawn from Paramount talking about survivor's guilt after all these layoffs.
Wow, yeah.
And then you've got Alex Kostic. He was the senior VP of marketing at Madison Wells. And his entire department got cut.
Oof, that's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's definite anxiety there.
Big time. But then, like flip the page. Right? My notes say everyone was saying things like opportunity within the chaos.
Right.
Like even though things are tough, content creation isn't slowing down at all.
No, I mean, it's just more and more content all the time.
Exactly. Nielsen says there are, get this, over 823,000 library series out there right now.
That's incredible.
I know. So like, it's a jungle out there.
It's a jungle out there for sure.
But it also means more need for people who can make it, market it, get it to the right audience.
Absolutely.
And that's where you come in.
That's where the listeners come in.
Exactly. Okay, so how do we stand out in this crazy landscape?
Yeah.
Well, Cynthia Lieberman, you know, she's done like personal branding for everyone in Hollywood, right?
Oh, yeah. She's amazing.
She had this great point about upskilling.
Basically what got you here won't get you there.
It's so true.
Right. She actually had this really cool example. She's learning something called prompt engineering, which has to do with AI.
Oh, wow.
And then she's teaching others how to use AI responsibly. That's impressive. So she's really walking the walk.
Totally. Okay, hold on. AI in Hollywood. Tell me more.
Okay, so this actually came up in the meeting. Ollie, another Sony alum, brought it up.
Okay.
And there's a ton of excitement, right, about AI's potential, especially for things like social media marketing.
Right.
But at the same time, there's that fear, you know?
No.
Like, are robots going to take our jobs?
I think everyone's thinking that. What's the real story here?
Well, Ivan, he's the content creation guy for both employees and customers. He's actually experimented with writing using AI.
Oh, interesting.
And you know what he said?
What?
It's still just a tool that needs a human hand to guide it. It's not about replacement.
Right.
It's about collaboration.
Okay, so AI can help us work smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
I like that.
But there's another layer here. And Ivan brought this up too. And I think it's super relevant to you, to everyone listening.
Okay.
The environmental impact of all this compute and power, you know?
Oh, right. Yeah.
AI and climate change are linked. So as we embrace these new technologies, we've got to be mindful of the bigger picture.
Okay, that's a really good point. So we need to be smart about AI, not just in like how we use it for our careers, but also how it impacts the world.
Absolutely.
Now, Ivan also mentioned something about Gen X that really caught my eye.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
He basically said that Gen X has all the buy-in power, but not the inherited wealth, not yet at least. That's all coming their way from the boomers.
Right.
So they're the ones with the money. But it seems like no one's making content for them.
That's a really good point.
Right.
And they consume media so differently. They're visual, they're experiential. Whoever figures out how to engage Gen X is going to win big.
I'm seeing a theme here. It's not just about being good. It's about understanding the audience, the trends, the tech. It's a lot to keep up with.
It is, but that's why this meeting was so valuable. I mean, these are people at the top of their game. They're sharing their insights and anxieties. You've got access to that knowledge now, which puts you ahead of the curve.
Totally. Okay, so speaking of being ahead of the curve, Michelle, she's got this amazing background in both media marketing and running creative agencies.
Wow.
She brought up sports, which I thought was really interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, what'd she say?
Well, she's basically saying that sports isn't just about the game anymore.
Right.
It's fan content, it's player branding, you know, with those NIL deals. Team networks, even the physical spaces are changing. They're becoming like entertainment hubs.
That's so true. I know.
Steve actually mentioned that he has a client who's building sets for pro teams like the Bears and the Vikings.
Oh, wow.
Crazy, right?
That's wild.
So it's not just about knowing sports. It's about knowing entertainment and sports.
That's a great point.
Yeah, and here's the kicker. A lot of the folks running these new sports ventures are coming from the sports world, not entertainment.
Right.
So that means there's this huge gap that someone with your skills could fill.
Big opportunity alert.
I know, right? Okay, now let's talk about movies. Alex Kostic, remember, the one who lost his whole department?
Oh, yeah.
He had a pretty controversial take. He thinks studios should be doubling down.
Yeah.
On mid-budget films.
Interesting. What's his reason in there?
Well, his argument is that there's this huge untapped market of older adults, like the boomers who grew up going to the movies as a social event.
Okay, yeah.
They're not really into all the superhero stuff.
Yeah.
But they're craving something to draw them back to theaters.
Something different.
Exactly. So appealing to nostalgia and that desire for a shared experience.
Makes sense.
Right. But Stitt have challenged him a little bit on, like, the practicality of it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what are the roadblocks for producers and distributors? You know? So the takeaway for you, for everyone listening, is don't just point out the problems. Come to the table with solutions.
Proactive strategy.
I like that.
Yeah.
Don't wait for someone to tell you what to do. Figure it out yourself.
Right.
That seems to be, like, the key to success in this new Hollywood landscape.
Absolutely. And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
It's not just about having the ideas, right? It's about having the network to make those ideas happen.
Okay, let's talk about networking. This meeting was like a who's who of the industry. What were they saying about connections?
It was more than just networking, though. Like in the traditional sense.
Okay.
There was a real sense of community in the room.
Really?
Yeah, people were genuinely sharing their struggles, offering advice, looking to support each other.
That's awesome. So it's like your network is your lifeline in this industry.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's not just about finding your next gig. It's about having people you trust to bounce ideas off of, get feedback from.
Sure.
People who will celebrate your wins.
That's huge.
Right.
It's so important, especially in this crazy, unpredictable industry.
Makes cover sense.
Having that support system can make all the difference.
Totally.
And, you know, that brings us to another key takeaway from the meeting. The importance of content becoming more and more personalized.
Okay, personalized content. What does that even mean?
Well, Tom Hayes, he was the EVP of marketing at INSP, which is a network that targets like the 65-plus demographic.
Okay.
He pointed out how families don't really watch TV together anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
Everyone's on their own screens, right? Consuming content tailored to their specific interests.
So instead of trying to appeal to everyone, you need to focus on specific niches.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you know what's interesting?
Right.
While there's this big push for broader appeal, Hayes actually argues that there's a huge opportunity in what he called super serving niche audiences.
Interesting.
Like really understanding those demographics and their needs.
Okay, got it. So don't try to be everything to everyone. Be the best at something specific.
Exactly.
I like that. Now, where does this personalization trend fit into the bigger picture?
Well, it's blurring the lines between traditional entertainment and content marketing.
Huh?
Think about it. Companies are now creating their own content to reach their target audience.
Oh, like Matt Carlisle working with Delta Airlines and Dow Jones?
Well, exactly.
And Cynthia Lieberman teaching industrial organizational psychologists about AI.
Yeah, I mean, that's wild, right?
I would have never thought of that.
It just shows that the skills you're developing in the entertainment industry are transferable.
So it's like the entertainment industry is a training ground.
Yeah, for adapting to change and constantly learning new things.
Exactly.
And it's not just about skills, it's about mindset.
Right.
Being proactive, thinking strategically, understanding your audience. These are all crucial no matter what industry you're in.
I'm really seeing how these dots connect. Now, we've talked a lot about like big picture trends and opportunities, but what about the practical stuff? Like how do you actually make that transition? Especially if you've been laid off.
Right.
It can feel really daunting.
Well, Matt Guastafer, he runs a creative agency called Hugo. He made a great point. He said that just applying for jobs online isn't enough.
Right.
You need to tap into your network, leverage those relationships, and offer a solution to a problem.
So don't just tell them what you do. Tell them how you can help them solve their problem.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of thought leadership.
Right.
Like positioning yourself as an expert in a specific area can make you incredibly valuable.
You were saying earlier how Steve talked about creating those aha moments
Yeah.
for potential clients.
Yes.
Like giving them a perspective they hadn't considered.
It's about anticipating their needs and offering solutions before they even ask.
And it all comes back to understanding the market, identifying those pain points, and developing that proactive strategy.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm definitely seeing the value in all of this, but I got to admit, it's also a little overwhelming. Like, where do you even begin?
Take a deep breath. You're not alone in this.
Right.
There are so many talented, experienced people in the same boat who are looking for connection and support. And that's why this meeting was so inspiring. It brought people together and fostered this sense of community.
It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Exactly.
Right.
And that brings us to a really important question for you. Who are your trusted advisors, collaborators, sounding boards? You know,
Yeah.
if you don't have that strong network, now's the time to start building one.
That's a great point. But what about like the actual work itself? I mean, we've heard about all these opportunities in sports, financial services, experiential marketing. It's a lot to process.
Well, let's take a closer look at some of those specific skills that people are leveraging in these new areas. Remember Stave,
Yeah.
the editor who left Sony and started his own agency?
Yeah, he seemed a little overwhelmed,
Yeah,
but also like determined to make it work.
exactly. Well, he talked about how editing isn't just about cutting footage.
Right.
It's about storytelling.
Yeah.
And that skill is transferable to so many different mediums and platforms.
So it's like the core skills are still valuable,
Yeah.
but you need to adapt how you apply them.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's where upskilling comes in. Linda, the creative director from Paramount, talked about how the world of key art is changing.
Oh, right.
It's no longer just about design and posters.
Yeah.
It's about branding an entire library of content.
Makes sense.
And she also mentioned that managing a large team of designers was a totally different experience from working on individual titles.
Yeah, I remember that.
So even within the entertainment industry, right,
Mhm.
there are opportunities to develop new skills and broaden your expertise.
So it's like, even if you're not leaving the industry entirely, you still need to be constantly evolving and learning new things.
Absolutely. And here's the good news.
Okay, what's that?
There are so many resources available to help you upskill. Online courses, workshops, conferences, you name it.
That's true. And don't forget about the power of networking.
Right.
You can learn so much just by talking to people who are already doing what you aspire to do.
That's a great point. You know, one thing that really resonated with me was Cynthia's comment about redistributing your talent. It's not about starting from scratch.
Right.
It's about recognizing the value of your existing skills and finding new ways to apply them.
I'm starting to see this whole transition as less about finding a new job and more about finding a new way of thinking.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It's about embracing a mindset of continuous learning, adaptability, and proactivity.
And finding your tribe.
Yes,
Those people who will support you, challenge you, and inspire you
that's so important.
along the way.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm feeling a surge of motivation here. But before we get too carried away, I think we need to address like the elephant in the room.
Okay, what's that?
The financial realities of all of this.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest. Upskilling takes time and resources. And not everyone has that luxury.
You're absolutely right.
So what do you do?
Well, that's where things can get tricky. But it's important to be realistic about your financial situation and develop a plan that works for you.
Yeah. Maybe we can explore some like practical tips and resources in the next segment.
Absolutely.
Because I feel there are a lot of people listening
Yeah.
who are eager to make a change, but need some guidance on how to get started.
I think that's a great idea.
Awesome. Well, we'll dive into all of that after a quick break.
Sounds good. You know, it's interesting how that meeting kept coming back to this idea of a financial reality check.
Yeah.
You're right. Upskilling and reinventing yourself takes resources. And not everyone has a ton of cash to throw around.
Exactly. That's what I'm worried about.
But Steve actually addressed that directly.
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
He said to shift your perspective, instead of focusing on the cost of upskilling, think of it as an investment. An investment in yourself, in your future.
Right, right.
And he emphasized that it doesn't have to be this huge financial burden.
Okay, good.
There are tons of free or low-cost resources.
Oh, like what?
Online courses, workshops,
Right.
even just connecting with people in your network.
Okay.
People who have expertise in the areas you want to learn.
So start small, be resourceful, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Exactly.
I like that. What else did they talk about
Yeah.
in terms of making this transition, financially feasible?
Well, remember how Matt Guastafer mentioned that his agency, Hugo, focuses on being creative problem solvers?
Yeah.
He actually gave a specific example of how they applied that mindset to their own business
Oh, really?
during the pandemic.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When film and TV production shut down. They knew they had to pivot fast.
Right.
So instead of panicking,
Yeah.
they looked at their existing skills and thought, how can we apply these to a different industry?
Okay, so they got proactive
Yeah.
and started brainstorming new ways to use their talents.
Exactly.
Right.
They realized they were really good at visual storytelling,
Right.
no matter the medium. So they started reaching out to companies in industries that were booming during the pandemic, like e-commerce and online education.
Oh, interesting.
And they offered their services for creating engaging video content.
Wow, that's a really great example of adapting to circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of being limited by their industry experience, they focused on their core skills and found new ways to apply them.
Exactly.
Okay.
They not only survived the pandemic, but they expanded their client base
Wow.
and broadened their skill set in the process.
That's great.
It just shows that sometimes limitations can actually lead to incredible opportunities.
I love that. Necessity is the mother of invention.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it reinforces what Steve was saying about having a proactive mindset.
Right.
Don't wait for things to happen. Make them happen. Identify problems and come to the table with solutions.
So thinking back to all those opportunities we discussed, in sports, content marketing, even AI, it's not just about acquiring the right skills, right?
Right.
It's about being able to apply them in a creative, problem-solving way.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that brings us back to that crucial question. What's your unique value proposition?
Right.
What are you passionate about? What problems can you solve?
Yeah, it's like finding your sweet spot, right? That intersection of passion, expertise, and market demand.
Exactly.
Once you have that figured out, you can start building a strategy around it.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. This meeting was a powerful reminder of the importance of community.
Yeah.
Reach out to your network, connect with people who inspire you, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
This has been such a great deep dive. I feel like I've gone from feeling overwhelmed to feeling energized and empowered. What a roller coaster.
It's amazing what a little bit of knowledge and a supportive community can do.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
And another thing that struck me, that financial reality check we talked about.
Yeah.
Steve didn't shy away from it at all.
Oh, good.
He actually had some really interesting things to say about it.
Okay. Like what?
Well, he said, instead of thinking about the cost of upskilling, try thinking of it as an investment.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
An investment in your future, your career.
Right. Makes sense.
And it doesn't have to be this huge financial burden. That's what he was saying.
Oh, good.
He was like, there's a ton of free resources out there.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Free courses online, workshops, things like that.
Right.
Even just talking to people in your network who have the knowledge you need.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point.
Mentors and things like that.
Totally. So what else did they talk about in terms of like making this transition financially doable?
Well, remember how Matt Guastafer from Hugo, the agency?
Oh, right, yeah.
He kept saying they're creative problem solvers.
Yeah.
He gave a great example of how they applied that
Okay.
to their business during the pandemic.
Oh, interesting.
When film and TV productions just shut down completely?
Oh, yeah, it was a scary time.
It was. They knew they had to change fast.
Yeah.
So instead of freaking out, they looked at their skills and they asked themselves, how can we use these in a different industry?
Ooh, I like that. So they got proactive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They realized they were really good at visual storytelling.
Okay.
And that could work in any medium.
Right.
So they started reaching out to companies that were actually thriving,
Right.
like e-commerce, online education, things like that.
That's smart.
And they offered to create video content for them.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
So instead of being limited by their industry, they used their skills in a new way.
Exactly.
And it worked.
It did.
Wow.
They not only survived, but they expanded their clients.
That's incredible.
And broadened their skill set at the same time.
Wow, that's a great story.
It really shows how limitations can lead to new opportunities.
Totally. It's like necessity is the mother of invention. And it all goes back to what Steve was saying, right? That proactive mindset.
Exactly.
Don't wait for things to happen, make them happen.
Exactly.
Sign the problems and bring the solutions.
Right.
Okay, so thinking back to all those opportunities we talked about, sports, content marketing, AI. It's not just about the skills,
Right.
It's about knowing how to use them, like a creative problem solver.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to the big question, right?
Okay.
What's your unique value?
Yeah.
What are you passionate about? What problems can you solve?
Yeah.
You got to find that sweet spot where your passions and the market's needs align.
I love that. Okay, this has been such an amazing deep dive. Honestly, I feel so much better about everything. I went from overwhelmed to totally energized.
I'm glad to hear that. It really is amazing what a little knowledge
Yeah,
and the right community can do.
for sure.
It-
So to everyone listening, remember to embrace change. Invest in yourself, be proactive, and find your people. The future of entertainment is waiting to be shaped, and you can be a part of it.
Absolutely.
And that's a wrap on the deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep connecting, and keep creating.